Farms here just off 9th Street in downtown Corvallis. So with me is Captain Nick Hurley from Corvallis Police Department and Joe Hutchinson from Samaritan, as well as, who's down there?
Captain Jason Harvey.
Captain Jason Harvey from Corvallis Police Department. So Captain Hurley is going to provide some brief remarks, take a few questions, and we'll be done after that. Captain Hurley?
Thank you. So good afternoon. Again, my name is Nick Hurley, and want to provide just some brief details of where we're at. The investigation is still going on. We've centered it down to just the Foster Farms food processing plant across the street from where we're at here on 9th Street. The detectives are actively working it. It's now a criminal investigation as opposed to earlier where it was an emergency response, and we were dealing with what we thought at the time was an active shooter. At this point, we do have a gentleman in custody. His name is Adrian Nickerson, and he is an Albany resident. He is a temp employee from what we've determined through our investigation, a temp employee that was assigned to work part-time there at the Foster Farms processing plant. He's been charged with a multitude of different crimes. This actually stems from a small car crash that happened earlier in the morning right before this incident started here on 9th Street, where he and another vehicle were involved in a minor traffic crash. Unfortunately, he left the scene. So he has been charged with failing to perform duties of a driver for the traffic crash, at which point he then went to the Foster Farms just a few hundred feet from the location of the traffic crash. So our officers were already on scene investigating that, trying to find the driver who fled the scene from the other driver during the driver's information exchange. And at that point, the call came into 911 there at 8:11, advising us that there was potentially an active threat of some sort and some shots fired. As I said, we're still doing an investigation. The detectives have been interviewing Mr. Nickerson. We don't have any previous history with him. He is an Albany resident. So when we look through our database, there's nothing that gives us any reason to have known him prior to this. I can confirm there was one fired round at this point is what we're confirming from a handgun. But like I said, the detectives are still over processing the scene, and at that point there could be further charges that come out of this. All of our lockdowns and lockouts have been lifted. So we're just, like I said, centered to the Foster Farms food processing plant at this point. Once we have that complete, then we'll reopen that back up to the company. I can't think of anything else that I have other than to advise the public that our main concern at the point in time this morning was public safety. We wanted to make sure that our public and the community at large were safe. And again, I thank all of our law enforcement and first responder partners that responded to assist us. But now we're into the criminal investigation, which is going to take a little bit of time as we get into the background. So,
Captain, have you recovered a weapon?
We have not yet recovered the weapon, so that is part of the ongoing investigation.
Where within the building was that single round fired?
The single round was fired in a woman's restroom.
Captain, was he targeting somebody from the crash?
He was not.
Was he targeting somebody in the employee?
At this point, we have not determined his full motive for the situation. There's nothing that leads us to believe that he had a grievance towards anyone at the Foster Farms.
I want to give a second to let Joe speak a little bit as well. Please. To the response from Samaritan, which is a major employer in the Corvallis area and also a neighbor just across the parking lot. Joe, can you talk a little bit about what your team went through?
Yes, sir. My name is Joe Hutchinson. I'm the Director of Safety, Security, and Emergency Management for Samaritan Health Services. So this morning, as Captain Hurley mentioned, we received a call of a possible threat, possible active shooter at approximately 8:15. My team, my security team, my emergency management team immediately went into our emergency operations plans. We locked down our corporate facilities and we sheltered in place. For safety, we moved all of our staff away from the east side of the building. Foster Farm, our neighbor, is to our immediate east. We collaborate closely and regularly. We drill regularly with county, local officials on these types of incidents. So we felt very comfortable with our response. We worked closely with Unified Command, made sure they had one of our PIOs as a liaison, made sure our staff were safe. After the incident, we offered crisis counseling for both our staff and any other individuals who may need it or would like that. We also offered shelter in place for the exiting Foster Farms folks as they were clearing their buildings at our site.
Captain Hurley, can you describe a little bit about how the suspect surrendered?
So at this point, while we're completing the rest of the investigation, what we've all seen, and again, I haven't gotten all the details from the on-scene officers. He merely came out of the building on his own before our OSP, our state police SWAT team, could engage him. He simply walked out. We took him then into custody at that point. His arms were up, yes, but. We treated the scene just as we don't know what's going on inside the building, so then we had to enter and at that point begin our sweep of the entire facility.
There were reports that he had threatened to blow up the facility. Is there any evidence that there's anything found there, or did you search the whole area?
So we're trying to determine where that came from. We heard that it did come out. There was a little bit of a language barrier with the person that called 911, and so through that, we're not sure if the word explosion from the gunshot was what the dispatcher. There were some threats made. I don't have the specifics yet of what the threats were, so we treated it as such for an explosion and a threat. We're going to put that together, and that's why we had OSP bomb squad here to assist us in making sure that the scene was safe.
How many people were in that processing plant at the time, and what efforts were made to evacuate them or get them in a safe position?
So I don't have the number yet of the employees that were on scene at the time. They mostly had self-evacuated on their own. Being that it's a processing plant, it's really loud in there. They all had their safety earmuffs on. So some of them were not even aware that this incident was taking place in another part of the building.
How long had Mr. Nickerson been employed as a temporary worker?
I don't have the information. It's through a temp agency that they contract with Foster Farms.
Captain, you said he was facing a multitude of charges. Can you list the charges?
So at this point, we have the failing to perform duties of a driver for the traffic crash. We have criminal mischief for the damage to the vehicle, as well as the damage to the food product that's being lost in the building, discharging a firearm, and menacing. At this point, those are the charges. Like I said, as the investigation unfolds, there probably will be more charges, but as of right now, that's where we're at.
Have your detectives spoken to him on one-on-one?
Yes.
What is he telling the detectives?
So at this point, all I have from them is that he didn't have an air of grievance with the company at this point. So we're still trying to determine what exactly his intent was for his behavior today.
Can you spell his last name?
Sure, it is Nickerson, Nickerson.
And his age?
He is 22.
22, yeah.
22.
Yeah.
Was there anybody else in that restroom at the time? Or?
So one of the women that called 911 was in the restroom. So she was subject to that.
Did he threaten her? Or did he not?
I don't have that information yet. Yeah.
And any clarity on what point he brandished the gun?
It was at the very beginning of this whole call for service at the Foster Farms.
Do you know, Captain, if he pointed a gun in the air or if he pointed a gun at an employee?
Don't have that information yet. My understanding is the gunshot is to a part of the building, and it wasn't directed to an individual.
Okay,
Found that
one more
bullet
question.
hole or anything?
Last question here.
Did you find evidence of the gun being fired?
Yes. Yes, there is definitely evidence of that.
Okay, we're going to wrap it up right now. This is most likely going to be our last media briefing on this topic, unless circumstances change.
Yes.
And that'll be up to
I got a
Corvallis
closing
Police to
question.
call
Foster
you.
Farms, are they open today, Captain, now?
Foster Farms is now closed for the day
Okay.
while we
I don't
wrap
wanna
up.
make an assumption, but have you seen the video of the person who was taken in custody, and is that Mr. Nickerson? I want to make sure we don't...
That's correct. Yes.
Okay, I want to make sure.
Yes.
And at what
Okay.
point
All
it
right.
was
Thank you.
described
We're all
as him
done.
being barricaded in the
Okay.